Good Monday morning. It is the 12th of January, and we have got a jam-packed weather desk for you today. My name is Craig Moeller. I'm a meteorologist here at 13 News Now Plus, and we're so glad that you found us. We broadcast not only for Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina, but this is the time where I get to talk about weather all across the mid-Atlantic, across the United States, truly around the world, and we keep an eye on space-related stories as well. What do we have for you this morning? Let's take a look. First of all, an important update on the status of recovery from Hurricane Helene. We talk so much about this. We get so many important updates coming out of North Carolina. A state hit so hard with the major flooding back over the western parts of the state. Last Friday, I believe it was, or Thursday, we reported on a high school that had opened up more than a year after being destroyed by Helene with all the flooding. That was in Tennessee. We've got an update from North Carolina as they assessed over the weekend kind of the state of recovery, what areas are still really reeling, and who needs more money. We'll have that coming up in a moment. Last Friday, if you were watching, and really I guess Thursday, we talked about tornadoes just to the south and southeast of Oklahoma City. Then Friday, it was southern Mississippi. Well, we've got some video to show you from some of the storms there in southern Mississippi, so we'll update you on that. There was a tornado confirmed on Friday, a second one that was a little more powerful on Saturday as well. So we'll show you that. Coming up, we also have California. For the first time in decades, the entire state is drought-free. That is amazing. Okay, we have a report where they talk to climatologists about if this is something that's actually sustainable. California's been in water shortage, if not crisis, many parts of California for years and years. So we'll have information on that. But they are seeing those Santa Ana winds kicking up, and we'll have an explainer as to what the Santa Anas are and what the state is right now, who's under wind advisories, and other parts of the country actually under high wind warnings. So we'll get to that. Then we're going to take you up to Alaska, Juneau, some areas that had to evacuate due to the threat of avalanche. There are major wildfire issues raging down in southern Australia, so we'll show you those Aussie fires. And then we're going to talk big temperature swings for Hampton Roads. We've got to look back at some of the biggest swings that we've seen, but we'll talk about the chances for snow and what's on the horizon for the coming week, not just here in Hampton Roads, but across the country. I'll show you two different global models, kind of the outlook as we go. But we're going to start off by talking about Helene and the recovery. And again, it's been this part of the southeastern U.S., specifically western North Carolina and portions of Tennessee, that were hit so hard. We've really focused so much on Asheville. They are still rebuilding more than a year after Hurricane Helene. Over the weekend, Governor Josh Stein visited some of the hardest hit areas to get a closer look at the progress made so far. He toured a home being repaired and the Housing Assistance Corporation in Polk County. In October, the volunteer organization was awarded a $300,000 state grant to repair at least 20 homes in Polk, Henderson, and Transylvania counties. Governor Stein says the work is a good start, but the state needs more help at the national level.
We need more help from the federal government. Typically, after a major storm like Hurricane Helene, the federal government will give 40 or 50% of the damages to the affected state to help them get back on their feet. Some states have gotten upwards of 70, 80% of the damages. Our damages were $60 billion here in North Carolina. We've received 11%.
An estimated 74,000 homes were damaged or destroyed by Helene. The Housing Assistance Corporation is one of 16 nonprofits to receive a state grant to help with the rebuilding effort. Well, we're going to turn our attention now to the south, and I mentioned southern Mississippi specifically. Let's zoom in to a community, Laurel, that was hit on Friday, and we talked about that tornado warning on the weather desk last week. Well, several tornadoes touched down in eastern Mississippi over the weekend. Let's take a look at some of the damage in Laurel. The National Weather Service confirmed that there were at least 4 tornadoes that ripped through that region between Friday and Sunday. This one, the EF1 twister, was confirmed, and there's actually an EF0 there as well, but there's an EF1 confirmed as well. Nearly half a mile, reaching winds up to 75 miles per hour. And up in nearby Jasper County, they were hit with one a little bit stronger, winds of 105 miles per hour, and that one stayed on the ground. Let's come back to the maps because I can show you. Here's the one in Laurel, and then when you go up to the north there, up towards Jasper, near the town of Heidelberg, this was the actual storm report from the National Weather Service. This EF1 tornado, it began near the intersection of U.S. Highway 11 and Mississippi Highway 528. Well, initially, it produced damage to tree limbs, but it continued to track across parts of Jasper County along County Road 642. Now, the roof of a mobile home was destroyed or was damaged, and trees were uprooted. It then strengthened after crossing into Clark County, and it produced a concentrated path of snap trees. And that's what they go and they really look at to assess there. They study the width of the path, if there are sharp edges, what the debris pattern looks like, and they were able to determine this system lifted eventually near the Nancy community with maximum winds reaching at 105 miles per hour, the length 9.1 miles. And at its maximum width, it was about 3 football fields wide. So this was, again, an EF1 tornado, but they were certainly rocking Friday and into Saturday down across parts of the Deep South. All right, now we're going to turn our attention way out to the West Coast again, California. You've heard us talk literally for months about the ongoing wet weather impacting California and the Pacific Northwest. Well, there's some good news in that they are finally drying out. We're going to talk more about that in just a second. But we're also going to talk about those Santa Ana winds impacting Southern California. The National Weather Service is extending a wind advisory for San Diego County as Santa Ana winds batter the southern part of the state. Nicole Comstock reports from Fontana.
Powerful winds are ripping through the Cajon Pass tonight. Glen Helen Parkway clocking near 40-mile-per-hour gusts as the peak of this Santa Ana wind event continues to charge ahead into the overnight hours.
Well, my car is just rocking like it's ready to blow off the road. I waited till it cooled down some before I even left.
But Eric Moser still left San Bernardino for LA too soon for his beanie.
And that's how we get out. Whoa, there go my hat.
He went on a little reconnaissance mission to recover it, the wind giving drivers a little thrill, when what they really want to do on a Friday night is chill.
Oh, dude, I don't even want to get out to go to the gas station.
Jesus Ariano had to get out in these conditions too.
I know trailers hate it, especially because they're always flipping over, specifically in this weather along the freeway.
It's still too dangerous in this wind to tow this overturned trailer off the 15. It flipped over in the wind early this morning in Fontana. Drivers could really feel the force of the wind tonight on the 15 freeway, where Caltrans signs warned them to use caution. While the skies have been dry in the new year, the soil is still saturated in some areas from all of our December rain, meaning trees and power lines are more susceptible to damage in the weakened soil. Families in our wind-prone mountain and foothill communities are being urged to keep an eye on their surroundings.
All right, so let's talk about what drives these Santa Ana winds. You see this high pressure. Typically, it builds to, and we're talking about for Southern California now, the setup, typically off to the northeast and oftentimes just east of the Sierras. That wind field kind of comes around, and as the air pushes down the mountains, it compresses as it descends down the mountains. It compresses and it warms as it compresses, sinking down the mountains. It then moves across the dry deserts, and it further heats up a little bit. I'm making up words, heatens. It further heats up, and then as it funnels down through some narrow mountain passes, it focuses it kind of like, increasing the width there narrows, and it creates a more intense stream of air coming out, funneling it through that. It's like a garden hose going through a nozzle, how you can really increase the jet spray on that. And that air squeezes through these mountains, creating these powerful winds. These winds created are typically warmer than you would see around the season. In the later spring and summer, they can be really hot. Now, wintertime, they're not hot, but you can see these warmer winds. And if they couple with the drier ground, which is not the case right now, the ground's pretty moist out there across California, so the fire danger isn't, extreme with this. But a lot of times when it is a drier surface, these hot winds can create extremely dangerous fire conditions. But this is what they are dealing with right now, Santa Ana winds that have fired up. And as we mentioned, San Diego, parts of San Diego just off to the west, and even areas north of LA still under wind advisory. Now, while we're talking about the winds here, I do want to mention back up across parts of Montana around Great Falls. You can see the northern part of Montana up to the Canadian border under a high wind warning. And then out to the east, while we're on the topic of winds and advisories, well, they just took it down. We did have a wind advisory for portions of Albany and the western parts of Massachusetts as well. So the Albany area, parts of the eastern New York state, and then western Massachusetts were under advisory. They literally just took it down before the start of our weather desk. So that's what's going on out there. Now, we're going to talk about the drought situation, or the lack thereof. California has been seeing so much rain and snow, especially Northern California up into the Bay Area. Drought maps are now showing the state is drought-free. This is from the U.S. Drought Monitor. You don't see any part of California under even moderate drought or abnormal dry. This is pretty amazing, okay? It's the first time that we've been able to show the map this moist for California, drought-free in 25 years. Kayla Moeller heard from climatologists about the weather and if this trend, this more moist trend, is sustainable.
This is the first time we have seen that since December of 2000. So it's been quite a while since there's been no D0 abnormally dry or worse being depicted in the state.
This week's U.S. Drought Monitor map is an unusual sight to see, as California shows no drought conditions, while much of the rest of the country is experiencing abnormally dry or drought conditions.
This water year, which started October 1, we got off to a great start. And we've seen regular storms work their way through over the months. And in the first quarter of the water year, as we rounded into the new calendar year, we're at about 150% of average on precipitation.
Our First Alert weather team says this 2025 to 2026 season is considered to be a La Nina year. And for California, that usually means drier conditions.
But this year is an anomaly. We are seeing the storms form right off the coast of California. So they're coming right in, inundating the state from north to south. So we've had this heavy, steady rain that has continued.
That steady rain has also helped refill California's reservoirs, with 14 of the 17 major ones at 70% or more capacity. But that doesn't mean these conditions are here to stay. Climatologists say we're in a wait-and-see period to see how the rest of winter goes and what things will look like come fire season.
That back and forth is something California is well accustomed to. But we'll see then as we get into February and March, when they start their growth cycle, if there's continued moisture to allow for that. And then fire season begins when those grasses begin to dry out.
The next week or so is supposed to be fairly dry in the state, warm as well. So again, as quickly as we've seen some of these dry situations get tampered down and relieved, they could be developing again.
Well, we will see how things play out eventually, but it's still pretty remarkable to see California without any drought for this time being. So good to see that. All right, across southern Texas, though, the droughts continue. They still have extreme drought. South Texas, back across parts of Oklahoma, and then Illinois, Indiana, into the northwestern part of Ohio. Also some areas of extreme drought. It's been drier in the southeast. You can see areas of severe drought. And as we take a closer look at Virginia and North Carolina, we do have severe drought out in the Piedmont, back towards the Blue Ridge and up around the D.C. area. Much of Maryland Maryland, and eastern parts of West Virginia. For Hampton Roads specifically, we're not looking too bad. We are a little bit on the dry side, call it abnormal dry, but there is some moderate drought off to the north and out to the west. So we'll continue to watch that. No rain on the radar right now, so let's turn our attention up to Alaska, and an avalanche forced some residents to evacuate their homes over the weekend. Take a look. This avalanche was caught on camera in Juneau on Friday. Now, the emergency response worker who recorded the video says it was just one of several that he witnessed in under 2 hours. Juneau reported a record snowfall in December, and now the region's dealing with heavy rain. On Saturday, an estimated 4 inches of rain fell. No injuries have been reported, but residents have been advised to prepare for days of potential road closures. All right, now we're going to turn our attention all the way down under to Australia. Mentioned the wildfire situation. It has been a mess, specifically the southern part and the southeastern part of the country. You see Melbourne there. These are off to the west and to the north of Melbourne. This is where crews have been battling dozens of brush fires. And take a look at this. A state of disaster has been declared for Victoria. Extreme heat and strong winds have helped fuel the flames. So far, the fires have scorched at least 700,000 acres, and more than 130 buildings have been destroyed. This has been the worst fire season for Australia since the so-called Black Summer bushfires back in 2019 and 2020. All right, let's update you on what's happening with NASA as we take a look at the big blue marble here. The 4 astronauts are coming home early from their mission at the International Space Station. They're going to splash down off the coast of California on Thursday morning. We told you last week NASA postponed a planned spacewalk due to a medical concern with a crew member. While that astronaut is stable, NASA is now bringing the entire crew home out of caution. You may remember Crew 11 launched on the SpaceX Dragon in August, and they were set to return next month. But again, they're now expected to head back to Earth in the next couple of days. This is the first medical evacuation from the ISS in its 25-year history. A change of command ceremony is set for 2:35 this afternoon. All right, we're going to take a little break, just 2 minutes, but when we come back, we'll take a look at some of the biggest 24-hour temperature changes in Hampton Roads histories. Plus, we've got some more swings on the way. I'll talk about how the week's shaping up and wintry weather on the horizon. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. Take a look at this. Temperatures, they've been all over the place the past week here in Hampton Roads. We made it up into the mid-70s Friday and Saturday, feeling so spring-like. Yesterday, 68 was the high. That's a little misleading, though, because that occurred just after midnight. It actually turned a lot cooler as the day went on. Today, we're going to be back in the 40s for highs. So far this morning, just 37 degrees. We will warm up a little bit, but it's going to be a lot cooler than it has been for sure. Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages is going to break down some of the steepest temperature swings we've seen in Hampton Roads history.
If you think the weather around Hampton Roads can change fast, the records prove it. Climate data from Norfolk International Airport shows some of the most dramatic 24-hour temperature swings you'll find anywhere. The biggest temperature drop on record happened January 6th to 7th, 2014. It was a mild 66 degrees one morning, and just 24 hours later, temperatures crashed to 15 degrees. It's a staggering 51-degree drop, the largest ever recorded here. Second on the list came during the brutal winter of 1978, when temperatures fell 48 degrees in one day. Several other events saw drops in the mid-40s, including February of 1989, December of 1967, and February of 1994. All were tied to powerful Arctic cold fronts. But it's not just sudden cold snaps. Norfolk has seen dramatic warm-ups, too. The biggest 24-hour temperature rise happened twice, in January 1995 and again in January 1994. Temperatures jumped 42 degrees in a single day. One morning it was in the teens or 20s. The next day it felt like spring. Other rapid warm-ups in 1981, 1971, and 1996 saw temperatures surge nearly 40 degrees in just 24 hours. These wild swings happen because Hampton Roads sits right on the boundary between Arctic air to the north and warm Gulf air to the south. So when strong fronts move through, temperatures can change fast, sometimes faster than anywhere else in the country. That's Hampton Roads weather for you. If you don't like it, just give it a day.
For sure, Tim. Take a look at the big temperature swings from this time yesterday. We're still looking at some areas where it's 20 to 25 degrees cooler than yesterday mid-morning. And I will tell you this morning as I came in, we were looking at 30 to, say, 37, 38 degree temperature differences from yesterday morning to this morning across the region. So we weren't to the record for the biggest temperature swing, as Tim was just showing you. That was 51 degrees. But it was certainly dramatically colder. It was funny because just about a week and a half or so ago, when I was back in Missouri visiting family over the Christmas or post-Christmas break leading up to New Year's, we had a 40-degree plus temperature swing from afternoon to the evening. So that took place in a matter of hours back there. These huge swings can and sometimes do happen. Right now, Hampton Roads is looking at temperatures in the upper 30s. I'll get more into the forecast here on that coming up. You can see today, generally, we're headed for highs in the upper 40s. A lot of sunshine across the region. Let's talk temperature trends here. And again, a little warmer tomorrow and Wednesday back up in the mid-50s. So that'll be a little bit above the average high of 51. But then we're going to trend back down, and it is going to stay cold, most likely Sunday into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. So how about the situation across the country? You know, the past couple of mornings we have had, last Thursday and Friday, some severe weather to talk about. As I mentioned, Oklahoma and Mississippi at the time. Now things are quiet and there's really no severe weather outlook or concern for the U.S. today. Looks good. We don't have anything brewing. So let's talk about the changes coming later in the week. I'm going to show you a couple of global models here. We'll start with the European model and talk about areas that could see some snow later on. Now, high pressure is in control here. Remember, that's generating some of those Santa Anas we were talking about back across California. That's going to be the dominant feature. Some wintry weather up around the UP of Michigan and the northern Great Lakes. Some unsettled weather here. Eventually, moisture is going to come into play, and the Euro produces some showers late day down across northeastern and eastern portions of North Carolina. Into Thursday, the Euro really doesn't generate too much for us. It does bring about that cooler air into the upcoming weekend, and it does actually produce another shot at some snow later in the weekend. You can see Sunday, maybe some mix into Sunday of next week. we'll see what happens with that. Again, that's the euro, and that's a full week out. When we look at the GFS, this is the U.S. model now. Same thing, looking out across the country, just to give you another look at this. You see the system down across Texas, same areas. Northern Great Lakes seeing some snow there. The GFS carries that to the east. It also produces some showers Wednesday afternoon, eastern North Carolina. That's why I've got that mentioned in the forecast. But you'll notice as we get into our Thursday, while the euro didn't do much, the GFS does produce a chance for some mix, if not some snow showers across parts of the area. And I'll have more with that coming up here in just a second. You'll notice looking across the upper Midwest, Friday, another shot at some snow, that really tracking more to the east. And then as we look ahead to Sunday, the GFS doesn't really do anything. That's the one where the euro was. Now the GFS doesn't. So the models are hardly in close agreement as to the snow chances, but it is something that we're going to be monitoring. And right now, giving you a closer look at Wednesday into Thursday, here's the latest GFS with the rain showers approaching, but then some transition or mixing even by mid-morning here on Thursday. This is what the GFS is doing, with some snow maybe mixing in later Thursday before exiting as mix. Not a lot, but at least something there as we take that closer look at the GFS. Now, here's the three different models with the snow potential. And I will say the NAM earlier this morning didn't show anything for our area, just a little bit up around Tappahannock and maybe up towards West Point, just minor amounts. So the NAM is producing now a little bit more, West Point to Melfa, trace amounts, but still a little bit. GFS has been the most bullish, producing maybe some snow in the mix, but keep in mind the ground's going to be mixed with some wet weather as well, so very unlikely any of this really sticks. Tappahannock maybe an inch, euro is dry. We're not overly concerned with this, but it is something we'll continue to monitor. We don't have any of that right now. Right now, sunshine and cool conditions as we check in with the Thompson Creek Window Company Skyview, looking across the Elizabeth River over towards Portsmouth. It is sunny right now. Winds are light from the west-southwest. Out on the water for another half an hour, we have a small craft advisory on the ocean. Things will improve later in the day. Here's a look at the forecast, and high pressure will build in. We're dry today and tomorrow. Temperatures much cooler today. You're going to see highs topping out only in the upper 40s for most of the region. That's it. As we head through the overnight, we're back into the 20s inland, and then we'll have low to mid 30s near the coast tomorrow morning. Through the day tomorrow, though, with the southwest wind, that's going to pump our temperatures up a little bit. Mid 50s, as I mentioned, we're back up above average for tomorrow. Today, the high around 48, so mostly sunny. These temperatures obviously cooler. Winds northwest shifting to the southwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. As we head through the overnight, the low tonight down around 33, mainly clear, typical January cold, very close to average with those slightly cooler readings inland. We'll see some areas into the upper 20s. Then for tomorrow, 54 the high, mostly sunny, highs slightly above average, winds still southwest about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's the rest of the 7-day forecast. After the warm up tomorrow, it continues on Wednesday. Chances for those showers over eastern North Carolina. I showed you that with the Futurecast. On Thursday, again, we've got showers mixed. Maybe some snow in there as well. It'll taper off as we head into the evening. Friday should be mostly sunny. Saturday looks good. And then Sunday, as I mentioned, euro trying to throw a little bit of snow in. The other models a little drier for now. So we'll take some time and keep a close eye to that over the coming days. And we'll keep you updated as the picture becomes clearer. Want to remind you, you can always download the 13 News Now mobile app so you can take our forecast on the go with you. It's free and available on the App Store and on Google Play. I'll tell you, it is a great app. Stay up with our forecast, traffic updates, news alerts. It's all right there. And take some time. We appreciate you finding us here on the Weather Desk. Let your friends know about it. We do this each and every weekday morning at 9 o'clock. We have it on 13 News Now Plus, along with additional special content. Check it out and always find us on YouTube as well. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.